Well, with us in the studio is a development economist, Bolaji Ogunsheye. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to see you.
The question we want to ask first off is why the hidden charges in the first place, and why have they been allowed to go on for so long, for eons?
Okay, thank you. That's a very nice question to ask about Nigeria. I could tell you 20 things that are wrong with this country that we know, you and I live with, and we live by every day. And I can ask you the same questions. Why? And why so long? And that nobody has changed it. You know, that's a question that's good for any part of our lives. Now, with the banking system, what I find is one, lack of enforcement, monitoring, follow-up by the agencies or the organs of government that are supposed to ensure compliance with, you know, these guidelines and things. That is the first one. The other reason is there isn't a concern on the part of government, the big policymakers, and especially those aspects of policy that are looking at, if you like, the financial well-being of the Nigerian household, of the typical Nigerian household. See, there is an absence. I saw this long ago. If you look at taxation pattern, levies across local governments, levies at the state level, all sorts. There is a mindset. I'm convinced about this because I have seen that from the behaviors, from the outcome of the interface of government with Nigerian people. And this is the point I'm trying to make. There is a mindset in government in Nigeria. There's a mindset that there's this huge money, store of money, wealth in the Nigerian society, okay? That's true to some extent, but for the day-to-day, Mr. and Mrs. Everybody, Mr. and Mrs. Everyday, they believe we have these hundreds in the Nigerian society, okay? That's true to some extent, but for the day-to-day, Mr. and Mrs. Everybody, Mr. and Mrs. Everyday, they believe we have these hundreds, thousands of trillions, and that the question, the nature of the relationship between government and us is for government to find the smartest, the best ways to take part of that money, preferably a lot of it, okay? I always say that the hand of the Nigerian state is too deep in the pocket of the average Nigerian. The hand of the Nigerian state, the failing Nigerian state, the poor service delivery Nigerian state, the zero service delivery in some cases, the dangerous Nigerian state, the Nigerian state that puts all sorts of clogs in your way when you're trying to thrive on a small business. The government, in many ways, the Nigerian state that is a disenabler of the economic well-being of the average citizen. This same government feels itself entitled to put its hand very deep in the pocket.
And take what it wants.
That's right. You hear government say aggressive, you know, including the state government, especially the state governments and local governments, aggressive revenue mobilization. Well, for a change, let them give us aggressive bloody good services. Okay? So you're looking at a pattern, deeply embedded pattern of active failure, functional failure. It's a developmentally failed state.
Oh.
Yes, I'm not saying it's Libya. It's not a failed state in that sense, in terms of all the attributes of state and all the symbols of state power and everything. It is okay there. You have the deep state, you have the open state, you have all of this. They're working well for their own interest likely, and they're giving us the crumbs. So what you see is that you have a system. Look, the banking sector in Nigeria, if we had real serious development-oriented transition, industrialization, transition-oriented leadership, what you find in our banks is the banks will see themselves, instead of as mere traders of money who want to grab as much from their customers, is the same attitude of the state. Can you see? The state wants to grab as much from your pocket as possible, not linking that to how much are we enabling you to produce.
So it's reflected in every area of our lives.
So you see the banks. Go and look at the history of countries that have developed, that have made this transition since 1960, 1940, 1950.
Yeah.
There is what they call corporatism, which is to say the private sector, the banking sector, the state sector, the people who are in the planning, policy. We don't even have a minister of the economy in Nigeria. In Europe that are even developed, European countries, have you noticed they have minister of economy, economic minister? We don't have it here because we haven't woken up to the fact that this is the core.
But we did have a minister of economic, the coordinator of the economy.
No, that's different. That's the person who is looking at the economy as an orchestra.
Not finance minister.
No. What part is this one doing and how is it all working together towards making us move towards industrialization? So if we are doing that, if we have all these sectors in one table and they are looking at, look at the banks. We have about 25 million bank people in Nigeria who are banked effectively. Forget all the bogus numbers, 60, 70 million. About 25 million, okay? That is about 14, 15% of the population. If you had a bank that was enlightened, self-interest, that was looking at 20, you see, with our government, the big actors, private sector, especially, you know, those like banks, they are not looking at tomorrow's Nigeria, the wealth we can create tomorrow, and therefore let us behave with the public in this kind of way so that, look, you think our banks will be struggling to have.
So in other words, they just want what they can get now.
It is like the states, what they can get from the citizens now. You think the Nigerian banks will be bothered about 25 million out of 180 million. Let's push that number. Let's give incentives. Let's do this. But they want all the gratification now, all the big money now. But if they can reduce the gratification now and start planning towards tomorrow, they should be thinking of how can we go from 25 million people who are banked to 70 million. And then they can just imagine the kind of wealth they will get that time. No, they want it all now.
Now talking about the unbanked Nigerians, with all of this charges here and there, and all, does it have an impact on how willing people will come to become banked, or even those who are banked already, who you know, who are still flexible, sometimes keep a lot of cash at home? Does it have an impact? Or
it does have an impact, and that's the impact you've talked about. If I come to your house for a particular service for which I'm paying, and I notice every time I come, you don't treat me well, you want to grab more money from me, I'll reduce my coming. It's called rational choice in economics, okay? Human beings make rational choice about their deepest self-interest. Do you understand?
Yes.
So it's the same thing. You go to this bank, they keep you forever, they waste your time, they, you know. So a lot of people keep a lot of money at home. Have you noticed that? You know, it's because you've lost, it's like
confidence in the bank.
Yes, when we go here, you don't buy one tin of milk. Abroad, you buy one tin of milk because you go tomorrow, you can find, or you just buy about 2 or 3. But here, because you are never sure of anything, so you see where you go, you buy 10 cartons and bring to the house. You buy 3 bags of rice and this is. Do you understand? This is,
can Nigerians really afford to do that? Do Nigerians
do that? This not.
Not
but
anymore.
Preferably, and especially for the middle class.
Yes.
Secure middle class. Because 90% of Nigerian middle class are insecure middle class. Yeah? They're not sure that tomorrow they will still have 3 cars. They're always worried about something that is going to reduce in the count of what makes them middle class. Okay? They are worried that this generator is going to pack up, they might not be able. So that's part of the problem. You don't have a class that can take on the establishment, both private and government.
Okay. Bolaji Ogunseyi, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue this discussion.
Now, you mentioned the issue of the field system earlier on, not necessarily Nigeria as a political entity, but the institutions and all of that not meeting up their standards or benchmarks, as the case may be. Now, CPC is coming up to say, well, we're going to look into these issues, but CPC, the Consumer Protection Council, is also part of the system that Nigerians are saying, well, we've not been seeing you react or being responsive to our plight all the while. What can they really do in this case, you know, reducing all the hidden charges from the banks? Yeah,
first question that I put to you is, how long has the CPC been in existence? Since last month? 2 months?
No,
how many years ago?
Been around for a
Why
while.
suddenly are they waking up to this? You see,
maybe because there's a new man on the block, new kid on the block, if you want to say so.
We don't need any new kid on the block to let the institution do its work.
Exactly.
You see, is this lack of capacity to de-individualize the functioning of the different parts of the state machine? Is that is putting us in all this problem? You know, I always argue that you can have a society that will trudge on, you will try. You'll be getting better slowly, you know, chaotically, but on the whole it's moving forward. You can get that kind of society where one of two things, at least one of two things, is functioning reasonably well. And you never get that society where two of those things are failing at the same time. What are these things? Yeah. Institutions. Institutions of governance. The machinery of governing day to day, Monday to Tuesday to Wednesday. They must be strong, or they must be functional and viable, okay? Then leadership. So if you see the US, and I'm not going to be too disrespectful, but quite frankly, you know, right now, or during some one or two other famous times, Reagan and things, you can see the president can literally go to sleep, or can actually be, you know what I mean, problematic. But because if you look at somebody like Trump now in the US, the strong institutions are fighting back. They are holding him to account. You can be president, you can do whatever, but the institutions will not let you go past them. Yeah. Pushing their own fundamental interests to contribute to the state aside. They won't let you do it. So, but when you have a state like Nigeria where you have the double whammy, double negative whammy, poor institutions combined with bad leadership, you're not going anywhere. Forget it. I'm now talking as a development economy. Because see, thank God, how countries change from pre-industrial status to industrial status. We have studied enough. We have more than enough material.
It's time to put it into action.
Exactly.
The world knows the things a country does, how you arrange them, the sequence and everything. And do you understand? The ones that are simultaneous. The world already knows this. There is more than enough information we have, beginning from Britain, the Industrial Revolution. Exactly. We've seen, you know, varied versions of it, and we have models from how Europe, the rest of Europe jumped on board and said, this thing that Britain is doing, if you don't do it, it's going to impoverish and colonize everybody economically. Then the US quickly joined, which was really part of the reason for the Civil War.
But can Nigeria or any African country use the same template that's worked in those places?
Some people are using that template now. Mauritius is literally under our nose, becoming a first world country. Mauritius. Yeah. Even the old people there, they get bus pass after a particular age, all the things you get. Mauritius is doing it. Botswana, yes, Botswana, tiny country, the edge of South Africa, is moving in that direction. Watch out for Rwanda. I don't know how the technological and, you know, industrial muscle that they will bring, but if you look at even the first part, institutions and things, they have the largest number of women representation in politics and things. So there are countries, it's just that you cannot see Nigeria even beginning the first steps towards the transition.
You know, we could continue this conversation for as long as possible, but let's see if we can bring it home to the issue of the CPC and hidden charges in Nigerian banks. The CPC is saying that it's going to introduce a Bill of Rights that will, well, help in ensuring that consumers in different sectors are protected, they know their rights and what have you. I wonder how you'll even get Nigerians to buy into this. And of course, the plan to automate the complaint system. Yeah. Well, look, whatever it is, implement, number one. Two, let the institutions that delivers, in this case CPC and its various units and things, that delivers this implementation work properly without political, you know what I mean? Interference. Look, is it not in this country we heard that a TVC, look, is it not in this country we heard that a TVC, look, it is not only in the banks, by the way. The telecommunication services, we have the highest cost per second and the poorest service The power sector too.
The power sector, the everybody sector, the television.
The health sector.
No, I'm thinking of even where private sector people are supposed to be giving. Look at the DSTV. The whole thing is not, but look at how much we are paying. This is why some of us insist that Nigeria is the most expensive, low-quality market in the world. You are paying through your nose for everything, but you are getting down below. The quality you are getting is poor, is often very... Look at our phone.
And you even pay up front in many instances.
You can't talk on any of these phone services for 2-3 minutes before it goes down, and yet we are paying. Is there anybody who say we should get compensation? Is there anybody? Look at Britain. Britain has off what? Off ed, off this. They have about 4, 5, 6 of these things that are set up by government, and they are working actively to pursue consumers' interests. So, Office of Education, they see that private schools cannot charge beyond the government sells the threshold. They look at the market, they look at the need of the private school owners to make profit, and they set everything decently and fairly. What is happening in Nigeria is that even the private sector people come, because we have these weak institutions and terrible leaders and politicians, mostly, not all of them, because this two whammy, this double whammy, because of this, private providers can come to Nigeria and see that, oh, I can mess up with this system. There isn't no break. Nobody's going to stop me. Do you understand? So we need, just as we need with the bankers, and for the bankers even more painful because they are Nigerian banks, somebody needs to bring them into a cooperative arrangement to know that they are a full part, they should be a full part of building 80 million customers rather than staying at 25 and screwing them to death. Do you understand?
Now, talking about, you mentioned some countries, you mentioned Mauritius, Botswana, and Rwanda earlier on. In relative terms to Nigeria, those are very tiny little countries.
Yeah.
But Nigeria being the big brother, from the perspective of our population, how complex is our population to ensuring that these systems work?
Okay. You see, these are some of the self-defeating, self-lying, if you like, premises we have put to cover the fact that we are failing. Big countries with population more than Nigeria have succeeded, and some of them are succeeding in the world right now. Small countries like Rwanda have succeeded. Singapore is small. So you see, again, this exceptionalism of population, of complexity, what is the complexity you have that is more than Indian complexity?
Or more than China's.
Or more than China. Look Brazil. At China is 2 countries in one. Western China is the hub of poverty, and that place has GDP per capita, health indicators, all these things, just like Nigeria. In some cases, worse.
Worse, yeah.
And yet you have Eastern China, which is first world, competing with the US and everything. And they are working at it. They are looking at ways to, reduce mass poverty in the West, take industrialization there. Do you understand? How are we working at our own? We can't go on forever saying we are big, we are this big. Look, if you're saying bigness is a problem for development, what about the bigness of the money you made in oil for 5 decades? Or
over $400 billion?
It's more than that.
It's more than that.
At least conservatively, that's what we've been told.
So, you see, big countries are doing well in the world. Small countries are doing well. Please, for God's sake, let's stop this funny exceptionalism claims for ourselves that there's something, there's nothing exceptional about us. We are failing. Full stop.
Wow.
Okay, so where do we go from here now? How importantly really does government even view consumer protection?
The consumer interest.
Or consumer interest. Is that what is at the root of
it is,
of the
you can see
problem
it. You can see it. Our government is not pained that we are losing money too much. Do you know Nigeria? Let me tell you. Nigeria, I pity Nigerians, including myself. Nigerians are hardworking. Go out on the streets of Lagos, 4 a.m. Some of these women are out there.
Nigerians are up. Yes.
It's not for lack of working that poverty keeps expanding. Nigerians are hardworking. They are making. Look, let me even tell you. I look at my own domestic economy, okay, and the economics of my domestic spending.
Yes.
It's not that you don't even make. You don't make as much as you were making before. You want to make some. But the point is, where is that money going? You are making money modestly, but you are spending it on low quality everything, not modestly. You are spending it big time.
Yes.
Do you understand?
On things that government should have
done
taken
that
care
the
of
system should.
already.
So you see, you are funding a sub-economy of failure imposed on you by the state. You are funding a sub-economy of failure in your household. All of us, that's what we're doing. And this is why people feel they need a lot of money. You see, when you're working in an atmosphere of developmentally failed statehood, you will be needing more money than you should need.
Including politicians who are putting their...
Well, yes. I mean, they are solving their problem. They are rather lucky. Few of them can steal as much as they want to take themselves out of this pressure. The rest of us cannot. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So where we are is that we need, honestly, we need to get a huge, powerful body together. We need a body that is thinking for Nigeria into the future and let that feed into how we are behaving now, how the banks are behaving, you know, telecommunications, you know, all these things, DST. What the TV providers are charging us is way, way, way above. So Nigerians are poor because they are paying too much for too little things. If they start paying the true price, if our inflation rate is no longer too artificial, and if we can remove the structural inflation in the system, look at all our fixed assets. They are priced to the heavens. As far as I'm concerned, you know, you look at I don't see any of this estate where anybody should buy it. I don't see any house in Nigeria that is 200 million. For what? You look from the window of that 200 million house, you are seeing rubbish all over. You are seeing, if you buy a house at comparative levels in other society compared to their currency, come on, you sit in your veranda, you are looking at paradise because you are also buying the optics. Yes. You are buying a beautiful environment. The aesthetics. But you see, all of us have now signed on to a crazy system where you are just looking for more money to buy. Well, I don't want to say. And
it's all artificially priced.
It's all artificially priced. There's no. If I had my way, I would. Well, I mean, use both market and non-market interventionist mechanisms to bring Nigerian price across the board, especially fixed assets and some movable assets, to bring everything down by about 50%.
Because in addition to what you're saying, if you go to some neighborhoods in Lagos, for instance, you go to some neighborhood because, like a bottle of groundnuts, for instance, that sells in Agege, and a bottle of groundnuts in Ikoyi, it is totally different. So just because you are in a neighborhood, the price is different.
And it's not even different by the quality. It happens in England too. Or in the US, they say you pay for the area. I understand. But it would be a marginal difference.
Exactly.
In Nigeria, it would be double, triple. You see, all our things are excessive. Everything. So we need to come back to basics. We need to be a normal society yet again. We need not to overprice and overcharge and everything. And then, most of all, we need to stop getting used to it.
And isn't that because take, for example, education, for example, because government is not providing its own standard, then the private sector would charge whatever it wants to charge.
That's why you're talking about putting a ceiling earlier on.
Look at the private university. I mean, the private universities, forget it. They are not the quality of private universities. Some of them are worse than UI.
Exactly.
In terms of the quality.
We have to leave it here now. Thank you very much, Bolaji Ogunseye, development economist, for coming on the program this morning.
Thank you so much and enlightening us on this. Okay, it's time.